The challenge of investigating a host of hoax school shooting threats across Colorado. A school district needing serious mental health care for students is building its own standalone facility. We ask a candidate for Denver mayor who's promising a tougher approach to homeless encampments to explain his math.
When you learned that the numbers that you were citing didn't back up your view, did you change your view or did you go looking for other numbers?
I will always apologize for misquoting data, and I do apologize for that.
It's hard for people who don't have a home to get a job and tough for people to get a home without that job. So they're stuck. A nonprofit has an extensive program to connect people with both at once, and we're going to help them expand their work. Tonight on Next.
Someone terrorized students and teachers and families all across Colorado today with a flood of hoax calls reporting school shootings in progress. First heard of this when police in Boulder said they were investigating the report of an active shooter. They got an anonymous call. Male-sounding voice said he had semi-automatic weapons and was about to go into Boulder High. Police say they even heard the sound of shots fired in the background of the call. Then more schools reported similar incidents across the state, nearly 20 in all. Every one of them hoaxes, according to law enforcement. The calls seem to come in alphabetical order. The first was at Alamosa, 8:24 a.m. A minute later, Aspen, then Aurora at 8:30, Boulder, Brighton, Durango. The FBI and Colorado's Department of Homeland Security are working with local police on this. We're told the investigation could be difficult because several of the calls came through non-emergency lines or lines that could not be recorded.
I would imagine now with the FBI being involved in this and with the broad range of areas that were affected across Colorado, that all of those agencies will cooperate to share information so that whoever did this can be identified and can be held, held in criminal court liable for what they've done.
The FBI told us they're working with at least 13 communities across Colorado, and important to say, they told us they don't see any evidence of a specific or credible threat in any case. Northern Colorado and parts of the high country really did get the snow that they expected today. In Denver, it was more like brace for a trace. And then the bitter cold, of course. Danielle Grant, this is just what we do on Wednesdays.
Brace for a trace. I like that. Yeah, they got 0.9 inches and still are waiting on our next report. But yeah, here in the metro area, it really wasn't bad. It was just about the timing. And early this morning, that morning drive was just a mess. Up in the mountains, we still have the winter storm warnings going. Ski resorts loving all the fresh powder. The winter weather advisory will be in effect here for the city for the next couple of hours. That will expire. And then we're looking at the deep freeze setting in and those wind chill advisories as well. Up toward Estes Park, about 6 inches. Bailey, 4.3 again. We'll get new numbers in later this evening. As we look at the radar, still pretty active. Of course, that snowfall charging across the high country. Here in the metro area, it just is pushing east of I-25 now that the evening drive is kind of winding down, right? And then off to the eastern plains, a steady line of snow from Julesburg south all the way through Holyoke, Ray, and Burlington, impacting Nebraska and Kansas. As all of this snow moves out, that cold really will settle in. Wind chill values as low as 20 below here for the I-25 corridor. And then we have the wind chill warning for values as low as 30 below. What it feels like to exposed skin. These are the numbers right now. We're still above zero here in Denver. Not the case in Fort Collins and Greeley at 0. And up in the high country, not quite as cold as what we're experiencing here in the metro area. Again, it feels more like 16 below. We'll scoot out all the snow. Late tonight, we're just looking at mostly cloudy skies. Few lingering snow showers up in the mountains. We'll kick off the day tomorrow with cloudy skies and then another brief little round of snowfall in the afternoon into the evening tomorrow, 7, 8 o'clock. It's about 11 p.m. when everything finally scoots out. Tomorrow, a daytime high of just 18. We stay in the teens into northern Colorado. And then look at this 7-day forecast. We should bounce back quite nicely with highs in the 50s as we look ahead toward Saturday and Sunday.
Saturday and Sunday.
Where are my glasses?
Yeah. Can I say something stupid? The answer is better than anybody I know. This winter is weird. It's just weird. I mean, the amount of snow, the deep cold, it snows every Wednesday thing. It's just weird.
And it was 60 degrees yesterday. Do you remember that too?
I do indeed, yes.
I know, it was glorious. And of course, like you just saw in that 7-day forecast, it looks like a little more snow coming our way. When?
Next Wednesday.
Wednesday. You heard it here first.
Book it. Thank you, Danielle. Our next conversation tonight is with another one of the 17 candidates for Denver mayor. Kwame Spearman is the Tattered Cover CEO, promising to throw the book at criminals and to crack down on homeless encampments. In his first run for political office, Spearman is courting Denver's small but not inconsequential number of conservatives and also Democrats who are frustrated by crime and homelessness. You've staked out one of the toughest stances against addressing homelessness of any of the candidates in the race. You've described unhoused people as exploiting the system. So it's going to be single-digit degree cold outside tonight. What are the people who are sleeping on the streets exploiting the system to get tonight?
I think the exploitation that I've talked about, let's elevate this to sort of give a full perspective on it. For example, Kyle, I was driving down Stout last night, and there was a homeless encampment, and that encampment had a giant barbecue pit, and they were burning a fire in the middle of the street. I'm sure that maybe they were using that fire to stay warm. Maybe they were using that fire to cook food. But Kyle, that is illegal, it's dangerous, and it's bad for our neighborhoods. The fact that they were just allowed to do that, and Kyle, I drove by and then I made a decision 20 minutes later to drive by, the fire was still burning. That's unacceptable. We can call it exploitive, we can call it whatever we want, but we have created a system in which we are allowing that to happen on our streets right now, and that's not beneficial for anyone.
In our conversation today, Kwame Spearman criticized his opponent Kelly Brough for saying here yesterday that people living on the streets should be arrested if they reject the city's offers of shelter or encampment. It seemed odd that Spearman said that because after a lengthy back and forth, he acknowledged that's his view too. They are both calling for arrests for camping ban violations if people reject all their other offers. Our conversation with Kwame Spearman continues in just a moment here. Leaders in the Cherry Creek School District were fed up that they could not help students dealing with serious mental health issues. No available spaces in so many of the intensive mental health programs in our area. So the district decided to build its own day treatment facility that it will help run. It's such an unconventional idea that even the person who proposed it was surprised it got approved. Here's Nusha Roy.
Standing in the middle of this construction site, Dr. Tony Poole is beaming.
It's really exciting. It's really cool.
He suggested building Traverse Academy in Aurora that will open as a day treatment facility this fall, where kids can receive both treatment and continue their studies.
10 years ago, we had 77 placement options in the metro area for students with mental health needs. As of today, we're down to 16. And so when we went looking for solutions, the answer that kept coming back our way was, if you want day treatment spots, build your own.
16 facilities for the more than 540,000 school-age students in the metro area. So in 2020, during the height of the pandemic, Dr. Poole took his chances because they'd lost too many people.
We had lost several students to suicide in that school year. And at some point, after the loss of one life, enough is enough.
Cherry Creek School District ran a bond, and voters said yes to paying for the $15.5 million facility.
Because you can't learn if you're sad, you can't learn if you're sick, you can't learn if you're hungry.
Michelle Weinrob is the Chief Health Officer for Cherry Creek Schools.
If we can't keep up with them and their needs, and then we're not doing right by them.
But doing right by them means giving kids the right care. And Dr. Poole said people should be asking questions about a district helping run a behavioral health facility like this.
10 years ago, I would have said that school districts had no place in getting involved with therapeutical, clinical levels of mental health day treatment. I think that's changed. I think the crisis has gotten so severe that it's going to take all of us.
So on that last point, and a really important part of this is that it's Children's Hospital and CU that will be providing the clinicians to assure that quality of care. So what this is doing is it's really stepping into this major gap that we've talked about before, that gap between therapy and then kids showing up at the emergency room. Now, the school district said they were able to move some money around in their budget to pay for this program moving forward, plus, partnering up with a bunch of people and the fundraising. It's really important to pay attention to how it's being paid for, because so many of these facilities, Kyle, are operating in the red, and then you end up seeing them being shut down.
Yeah, or you see facilities that are physically built and then portions are empty because they can't find the staff to work them.
Yeah, and I asked that exact question. I'm like, how are you going to get enough people to come work here? They're really hoping that it's the innovation and increasing the salaries that will get people through the door. They said a lot of people are showing that interest. And Kyle, yet again, this is another group that's saying they want to go to the Capitol. They want to talk to lawmakers about reimbursement rates. And I know I sound like this broken record, but for years, every time I do this story, they say the same thing. Reimbursement rates will change the game.
Anusha, thank you. Homelessness can be a trap. Hard to afford a place to stay if you don't have a job. Hard to find a job when your energy is spent all day finding safe places to stay. And both of those stresses would wear down anyone's mental health. So I wanted to tell you about a nonprofit in the metro area that is working all three of those challenges at once. Housed, Working, and Healthy is a nonprofit focused on just those three things, helping people experiencing homelessness get housed, working, and healthy. The nonprofit runs a job training program, primarily for people who are living in shelters right now, as in they pick them up in the morning and bring them to the kitchen facility where they learn the skills needed to land in-demand restaurant and cafeteria jobs around town. Mental health support is woven into breaks during the training program each day. Along the way through this program, students receive support to find housing and to connect directly with employers. So at the end of this 3 to 4 month program, they're ready for a true life restart, housed, working, healthy. The nonprofit is expanding its work around town, and we can help with that. Scan the QR code on your screen or text the word thanks to 303-871-1491 to get the link to donate to this week's Word of Thanks microgiving campaign. As always, to kick things off, I'll match the first 50 people in the door with a donation of $5. For all of us who are looking for a way to help people who are motivated to escape homelessness, this nonprofit, Housed, Working, and Healthy, has a step-by-step model that's changing lives.
A mayoral candidate debates himself.
There are people on our streets who prefer to live in a tent than a home. Not the majority, and I've never said it's the majority. 52% of our unhoused would prefer to live in a tent than other housing options.
Our conversation with Kwame Spearman. Details on his homelessness plan next.
So Denver Homeless Out Loud, which is a far more progressive organization than I am, did a survey and said 52% of our unhoused would prefer to live in a tent than other housing options. They also said that 18% of our unhoused will only live in tents.
If Kwame was a student of mine, he would get an F for analysis of that report. That's not what Denver Homeless Out Loud said.
As an exchange from the recent 9 News mayoral debate, the survey of Denver's homeless community actually found that the vast majority want to live in a home, but they are also deeply skeptical of going into the current shelter system. Denver mayoral candidate Kwame Spearman's take on the issue has not been shaken by the fact that he was called out for misrepresenting the numbers. I guess this is a broader question about leadership and decision making. When you learned that the numbers that you were citing didn't back up your view, did you change your view or did you go looking for other numbers?
So, great question. I think we should think about sort of what actually happened at the debate. I was asked, as well with all of the other members of the debate, if we believed the majority of people who were unhoused wanted a home. And I raised my hand because I do fundamentally believe that they wanted a home. The second thing that was brought up was this notion of tents versus houses. One of the things that we talked about are people exploiting the system? Are there people who aren't going to take the options that are available for us? The survey showed that there were people in that community that tents were their top choice. The third point,
it was 18%, if I am not
how that's
mistaken.
1 out of every 5 person.
Correct. And you described them as the majority, and you were wrong.
I think this is sort of the point of talking about these real issues, is that almost 1 out of every 5 people on the streets would rather live in a tent than a home. And about half of the people on the streets would rather live in a tent than go to shelter.
What does that tell you about our shelters?
You know, Kyle, I met with our Homeless Leadership Council on Tuesday of this week. So Denver Rescue Mission, Colorado Coalition for the Homeless, Salvation Army. I'll tell you what, they're doing everything they can right now. And they've made a lot of improvements. So for example, our shelters now allow for 24-hour access. Our shelters allow for people to potentially be still reeling from the effects of drugs. Our shelters have available areas for people to put their things. On nights like tonight, you really have to question if someone is still saying that they want to live in a tent over going to our shelters. I think we've got a deeper problem, and those are the tough choices that I'm willing to talk about as our next mayor.
Spearman took a leave of absence recently as CEO of Tattered Cover Bookstores. He said today that was his choice. Last year, he faced an investigation over allegations of workplace bullying. Spearman would not commit to releasing the third-party report, which he says cleared him of any wrongdoing. Our full 25-minute conversation discussed that, as well as his neighborhood-by-neighborhood approach to adding affordable housing, and what Spearman calls his ruthless pragmatism. The full conversation is on the next YouTube channel and on 9news.com.
Leave the feature-length films to other festivals. Denver is featuring the short stuff.
We want people to come watch these films and walk away in awe.
A tall task with a short time frame. Next.
Short films tell a story just like feature-length films, only shorter. Communicating quickly is a skill.
Watching my film and finding some connection to it is, that's why you do it. My name is Kip Adler. I run my production company, Kip Creative, and I'm the writer and director of the film On the Fence.
Hello?
It's a story that takes place in Israel. It's an American volunteer in the Israeli army. It's premiering at the Denver Short Film Festival.
Denver Short Film Festival is a global event showcasing independent and upcoming filmmakers from Colorado and from around the world. My name is Gio Torinello. I'm the artistic director of the Denver Short Film Festival. There are 16 films being showcased at the festival, and we put them all together, the Colorado films and the international and national films, so you can kind of compare and see how Colorado filmmakers are doing on a national and international level. There are comedy, there are experimental films, there's some action films. So there's a little bit for everyone.
It's really cool that I'm living here in Denver and got into a local festival. That was exciting. First of all, practically, because I can attend without spending a lot of money.
We need more events like this to showcase what's being done in the States.
There's a really great film community here in Denver. Even being a part of this festival so far, I've gotten to connect with a number of those other filmmakers.
I think festivals like this can get the word out that, we have a film industry and it's really good. You'll be quite surprised.
That festival starts tomorrow at the Mayan Theater. Feedback from a viewer currently experiencing homelessness. Next. Housed, Working, and Healthy is a nonprofit in the Denver metro area that offers people experiencing homelessness a real shot at all three of those things, so they can get a fresh restart in life. Housed, Working, and Healthy is a culinary job training program, but it's not just a culinary job training program. They pick people up in the morning from shelters where they're staying overnight, bring them to the learning kitchen for the day's classes, which also include mental health support and one-on-one help finding long-term housing. And then before they graduate from this 4-month program, actual connections with future employers looking to hire for kitchen jobs. Scan the QR code on your screen or text the word thanks to 303-871-1491 to get that link to join me in donating to Housed, Working, and Healthy. Feedback on our text line tonight. This is good for them. I spent months trying to get a job. I was fired shortly after because I kept falling asleep. Person writes, I'm still homeless, but can afford a Colfax hotel room every week now. That's the thing. There are a lot of very hard-working homeless people in Colorado. It's a great nonprofit. We'll see you next time.